Let's talk about these water heaters and how they work, and then we're going to look at the utility rebates. I want you to fully understand the concept of how a heat pump water heater works. Now, from the GE perspective, we really kind of understood this because you already put a major heat pump in the house, and it's not the heating system that operates in the same way, and that's called your refrigerator. Everybody in America has at least 1 or 2 refrigerators in their house. That is a heat pump. A refrigerator says, I'm going to extract heat from that compartment where the food is, and I'm going to drop that heat at your feet in the floor where you feel warm air circulating around every day you stand in front of it. So by taking heat out of the inside, the more heat I take out, the colder it gets, and we can get the temperature all the way down to 0 in the freezer by continually extracting heat. So a heat pump water heater says I work very similar to that. I use the same components, a compressor, a condenser, and an evaporator. Same exact pieces that are heat being anything for most manufacturers that's 45 degrees or higher. Our specific water heater will go as low as 35. So if this is in a basement where the ground temperature is pressing in 50, 55, 60 degree temperatures through the ground every day, that basement is full of warm air when it comes to a heat pump water heater. And it says I can pull that air across the evaporator, transfer the heat to the R134A refrigerant, the same that's used in a standard refrigerator, compress that gas with the compressor and boil it and release the heat by wrapping a condenser line around the outside of the tank. Now, most manufacturers do it this way, not everybody. So you want to make sure you look carefully at how the construction is done on whatever product you look at. In this case, we do this the same as a GE refrigerator. We're able to push the hottest part of that gas all the way to the bottom of the tank. And the reason it's done that way is because that's where the dip tube in a water heater for the cold water line pushes the cold water in. In order to get hot water out of the tank, you have to push cold water in to displace it. So the heated portion starts at the bottom and works its way up. Now, using nothing but a heat pump, a compressor, condenser, and an evaporator, this water heater can be taken to a temperature as high as 140 degrees using these external coils. Now, the reason it's important to note that these are external is because, as I mentioned earlier, 85% of the country has hard water. You want to make sure that you don't put the coils in the water where they have a chance to scale up and then decrease the efficiency. So this is done on the outside. Every manufacturer then blows in a foam insulation around that. We foam insulate to about an R19 energy factor to make sure that tank only loses about 5 degrees in 8 hours when it's sitting in no one's home. But then you want to make sure you look at the manufacturer as well to see do they have a backup heating system. And we do, and most manufacturers do, but not all. So you want to make sure you look at that. This particular water heater has 2 heating elements still in place, the same exact heating element that would be in a standard electric water heater. So now, if you drain the tank, the first question that people ask is, well, how long does it take to recover? Well, the answer is if you drain the tank, it's exactly the same recovery time as a standard electric water heater because it just reverts to being a standard electric water heater. In that case, the heat pump would be turned off. The upper heating element would be activated, 4,500 watts of power, and it would heat the top 30% of the tank. That's going to then turn off, go to the bottom heating element where in a GE water heater, that's a 4,000 BTU or a 4,000 watt heating element that comes on with the 550 watt compressor, and then the bottom 70% of the tank is heated, and then it switches back to what we would refer to as a hybrid mode. Most manufacturers do something very similar to that. Here's the difference. 4,500 watts operating here for the standard electric operation, or the heat pump as low as 550 watts. That's the difference between 45 100-watt light bulbs being on in the house versus only 5.5. That's where the energy savings comes in. Being able to use the heat pump for most of the operation of what happens is automatic, and you're saving money. If you take back-to-back showers and you drain the tank, then it just simply reverts back to the same heating elements that were in the water heater you had before, and then it switches back to heat pump. Every manufacturer handles that about the same way so that the switch is automatic. The homeowner doesn't have to program or do anything with it. The end result with a GE water heater is 69% savings over a standard electric water heater. That is significant. This isn't just a little. This is a major change in the industry being able to see this happen. This is what you really need to know as you're looking at the houses, as your architects are working on things, is what's the same. What's the same as the standard electric is the fact that these water heaters in general provide the same volume of hot water to the homeowner. So they feel no difference in the volume of water they have in the house. If they were used to a 50-gallon electric water heater or an 80-gallon electric water heater, they feel the same volume. What's different is the energy bill at the end of the month. The energy bill at the end of the month is going to be significantly reduced as a result of having a heat pump. Designed for installations in a similar footprint, garages, closets, basements, utility rooms, attics. Every manufacturer is a little bit different about this. All of them can go in basements. Most all of them can go in garages, utility rooms. Not all of them can go in an attic. And most of them will not be able to accommodate a closet. Be sure and read the specs for each one because that is very critical to making sure that you're able to make that happen. Same plumbing connections, on the GE, we have them on the top. Other manufacturers, as you'll see there's an A.L. Smith water heater. The connections are on the side. For new construction, that's not as critical, that difference, but in replacement market, that can become very critical in which one will fit. But it also does mean that you have to have a little extra room on the right side of the water heater if you have to plumb it down that side. Same 30-amp electrical connection, so from the plumber's perspective, same wiring, electrical, same wiring for the electrician. But there are some things that are different. You need air. Heat pump water heaters need to be able to move a volume of air. So most manufacturers need 700 to 800 cubic feet, not square feet, but cubic feet of air. And some manufacturers like GE will allow you to put it in a closet as long as you have a louvered door top to bottom in front of that. So you want to make sure that whatever room you're putting the water heater in, that you have looked at the specifications for the manufacturer and that you're observing that. Clearance around the water heater. Every manufacturer is a little different on this. We need a minimum of 7 inches. There are others that fall in that same category. But making sure that the plumber doesn't just push one up against the wall where it can't be serviced. That's a real big deal as well. And then periodic cleaning. Every manufacturer of heat pump water heaters has a filter on it that needs to be cleaned. Most of them will tell you when the filter needs to be cleaned. The good news is water heaters are not typically in a place in the home where there's a lot of air circulating around that creates dust and debris that would get caught in the filter. So there's not much maintenance on them other than just periodically taking that filter out and washing it and snapping it back into place. So it can be very, very easy to do that, and most of the electronics will actually tell you when that needs to take place. So critical to that portion of it also. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
Wanted to pause you for a second. We had a little bit of a phone issue a few minutes ago, which is why you didn't hear me responding to you. So we're back on a different line now. We had a general question from someone, which, in fairness, the person is not a builder who's participating in our call today, but they asked a general question about why would anyone use a gas water heater moving forward. So I'm sure you have comments on that.
Well,
but I wanted to take a moment to reach out to you, let you know I'm still sitting here, and we're back online phone-wise. So and I'm watching to see if anyone else has other questions to type in. Again, type them in, or I can see you if you're raising your hand and you have a question. Let me know, and I'm watching you right now, and I will make sure to connect you with Gregg as well. So that's all I wanted to jump in and say, and I'm going to go mute myself again.
Okay, that is a great question, and that is a discussion that I have with builders all the time. That's a regional thing. In some markets, and if it's rural, you have no choice but putting electric in because there is no gas infrastructure. But if you live close enough to a city, you may have the option. So I'm going to tell you that as a builder, you got to sit back and look and say, what does that infrastructure cost me on the house? Because it's a matter of, the gas company will put the gas mains in, and, you have to tap into so many homes with so many gas appliances. But as a builder, you still have to build the infrastructure in the home. You still have to have venting capability, and all of those things, carbon monoxide testers, all of those things that have to be available in the house. So what I tell you to do is at least go back and back those numbers out and see how much it takes away from the cost of the home. and then evaluate putting a heat pump water heater in and electric appliances and see if it provides you with an advantage. And in many cases, I think you're going to find that that's probably the case. Some people have a preference for gas, but most people don't. Some people are afraid of it. So it just depends on the market that you're in as to how you want to push that. And then, again, utility incentives are huge with this. A lot of power companies and gas companies are promoting their technology with rebates, with incentives for the house if you'll do some very specific things. But from a pure efficiency standpoint, electric will always make more sense, understanding that heat pump water heaters save such a drastic amount of energy and have such a much longer warranty on them that it makes it even better. In some instances, even a duct kit could be used. It depends on where the water heater is located in the house. Heat pump water heaters, as they run, they will dehumidify, and you've got a condensate drain line that does have to be dealt with. It's a drip line, kind of like what you would have with the HVAC system. And if the water heater is sitting next to the HVAC system in the house, these two lines can be tied together. It will remove up to 2 quarts of moisture a day, so the area around the water heater is going to be a little bit drier and a little bit cooler. Well, if I'm in a market where somebody says, gosh, the water heater is in a slab construction and I don't like the cooling effect in the wintertime, you've got a couple of options. One, you could vent it with a kit that you see on the screen, and every manufacturer, most manufacturers have something they can offer for this. This does make it a little more cumbersome because now you're back to forcing a vent someplace. You can push and pull air to make this occur. Or some manufacturers like GE says, gosh, if the heat pump water heater, the cooling effect of 3 to 5 degrees is offensive in the wintertime, then just put it back in standard electric. And a timer will be activated when you push that button that says, how many days do you want it to be like this? And it could be that in your market you say, well, December, January, and sometimes February are cold enough that somebody might find it offensive, so they might program it for 60 days or 90 days. And the water heater will stay on standard electric. I'm exactly what you had before. And then after that time, automatically switch over, not relying on the homeowner to remember, and switch back to the heat pump operation mode. So it's better to save money 9 months out of the year than 0, which is what your option really comes down to. So most manufacturers have kind of thought this part of it through. It's not a major cooling effect, but it can be enough that somebody will want to do something about it, and that's how you do it. The other big thing to consider is utility incentives, and you'll see the dates on some of these. They pointed out to me this morning that were old dates because I hadn't updated the slide. Every utility has updated these. They keep pushing these rebates out further and further. They generally only show 6 months at a time on the website, and then they bump them back out again. These are rebates that can be provided instantly in some markets. If you're building in Connecticut or in NYSERDA area or in the NIA area or with Efficiency Vermont, these are rebates that are taken that the plumber gets right there. And in many cases, this is passed straight on to the builder by buying it this way. Of course, I would expect that to happen. But there are also other rebates that are available in the forms of higher dollar values, where you can not only mail a rebate in, but you as a builder can participate in a major home building program that may be offered by the utility in your area. And these really are all over the country. When you look at some of these numbers, when you're talking $2,000, $3,000 that can be available as part of the package, and the heat pump water heater is one of those critical elements. So when you investigate what's going on with Georgia Power or with Duke and Progress Energy or with First Energy in Pennsylvania or up here with SMECO or BGE, you look at these rebates and say, gosh, I'm already doing 3 of the 5 things they're asking for. I put the heat pump water heater in. There's number 4, and this other 5th one is a minor change that I can make. And look, I picked up $2,000 or $3,000. I just offset the cost of the water heater in addition, and I earned the same HERS points that I was projected, somewhere between 4 and 7, 4 and 9, depending on the manufacturer. That means the water heater paid for itself by the fact that you tied into the utility incentives. So expect to see this kind of stuff going forward. This is just the first year. And you're guaranteed of one thing, and I teach this to plumbers all the time. I say, you're guaranteed of one thing, Mr. Plumber. Every house you walk into, you're guaranteed it doesn't have an Energy Star water heater because they didn't exist. You're guaranteed that the homeowner is used to paying 2 to 3 times as much for the electric bill for a water heater than what they're going to see today with a heat pump water heater. Those are the things that you know to be true. So the American public, when they hear this message, they look at it and say, why wouldn't I do this? If you're telling me that I'm making a small investment and I'm getting far more back on my return, why wouldn't I put this in my house? This isn't an if and a but. This is a for sure thing, because I'm going to use hot water every single day, and I want to make sure that I'm spending the least amount that I need to spend to make that happen. So let's wrap this up. We're down to 5 minutes. I want to make sure I have time for any other questions here at the end. In summary, moving heat is cheaper than creating heat. That's really what this comes down to. Even at 35 degrees, this water heater is operating at well over 200% efficient. So you get more than what you pay for. It's a ratio system. If I spend $1 and I get $3 in actual hot water, that was a pretty good deal. These are the only water heaters that pay for themselves as a result of that. You can put solar in and spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, but guess what? When the sun goes down, the water heater that it's attached to is also a standard electric or a standard gas water heater that's less than 100% efficient, which means it's losing money when that portion of it operates. These are the first Energy Star electric rated water heaters. First, they've been out there for 5 years now. This isn't a brand new technology. This is something that people will know and understand when they understand that it's the same equation as a refrigerator. And that is one of the questions that people will bring up. They'll say, well, how long is this thing going to last? And I'll ask you to be thinking about it right now. How old is the refrigerator in your house? But better than yet that, how old is the refrigerator that's in the garage with the beer and the soft drinks in it? 10 years, 15 years, 20, 30 years old? And how often was that sealed system repaired? Compressor, condenser, evaporator? Generally, the answer is never has been. So when you look at a heat pump water heater, it's not going to be an issue of whether the compressor, condenser, and evaporator lasts. That's a technology that's been around for a long time. And looking at the tank, 10-year warranty already, 10 years on all the parts, compressor, condenser, evaporator, heating element, all of those parts are covered for 10 years, 1 year in-home labor by most manufacturers. From the homeowner's perspective, same volume of hot water. They're going to feel the same volume that they had before. The only thing they're going to see is a difference in their electric bill. And these are available in sizes from 50 to 80 gallons, depending on the manufacturer. Warranty, we discussed that, 10 to 12 years on all parts, depending on the manufacturer. 1 year in-home labor by some manufacturers. We certainly believe in this product. Our same servicers, our same factory service works on this water heater, the same guys that you might trust for all the appliances in the house. So we make it a very easy transaction. Federally mandated. That's it. That's really what this all comes down to, is that you've got to make a choice, and you're making a choice in light of the fact that consumers are now becoming informed. They're learning every single day, and it will get better and better in their education for the months that are coming ahead. Water heating is the second highest single energy user in the house. What are you promoting? What are you putting in? A non-Energy Star Energy Hog or an Energy Star water heater that saves money?